Welcome to Turkish Series TV. Today we have a list that viewers around the world have been asking about, the 15 best Turkish dramas you can watch completely free on YouTube right now. No subscription needed, no platform to sign up for, just great series waiting for you. There is something for every kind of viewer here. Romantic comedies, historical epics, action thrillers, and productions that became genuine global phenomena, all subtitled in English. Before we begin, please take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot. Now, let us dive in. Number 15. Sila. Picture a young woman who grew up in Istanbul with a wealthy, adoptive family, educated in a modern household, and completely free to live her own life. One day, her biological family shows up, says her mother is sick, and asks her to come to the south of the country. When she gets there, she finds out there is no sick mother. There is a wedding, and she is the bride. That is where Sila begins. And from that first episode, the series locks you in. Cansu Dare plays Sila with a precision that makes the character fully believable in every phase of the story, a modern woman who finds herself imprisoned in a world governed by tribal tradition, honor codes, and rules that have nothing to do with the life she was raised to live. And the man she's forced to marry, Boran, played by Mehmet Akif Alakurt, isn't the villain you expect. He's someone navigating the same system from the opposite side, and the slow collapse of what each one expected from the other is what gives the series its real weight. The city of Mardin adds something that no studio could replicate: a visual atmosphere that makes the clash between Sila's Istanbul life and Boran's world feel tactile and real. The honest critique: at 79 episodes, the story meanders in places, and some subplots eat screen time they haven't earned. But Sila is one of those Turkish dramas where the performances are strong enough to carry you through the slower stretches, a landmark production. Number 14. The Oath. The first scene of The Oath tells you everything. There are people trained to operate in situations where a single mistake isn't a setback, it is the end. From that moment, the series establishes a standard it holds for the better part of 93 episodes. The Oath is one of the most ambitious military productions Turkish drama has produced. It follows an elite special operations unit through counterterrorism missions, and what sets it apart is that the action never becomes decorative, it has consequences. Characters are built with the depth needed to make those consequences matter. The parallel storyline involving Bahar, a school teacher whose life intersects with the unit in ways neither she nor they anticipated, gives the series a grounding that pure action dramas often miss. The production values are visible in every large-scale sequence, locations, choreography, and direction that signal genuine investment in the material. But what makes The Oath work beyond the spectacle is the slower moments, soldiers dealing with what the job does to them and to the people they love. The honest critique is that across 3 seasons, some secondary arcs get more time than they deserve, and certain conflicts outlast their usefulness to the main story. The pacing in the middle section of the series can test your patience, but The Oath consistently recovers and delivers where it matters. For viewers who have assumed Turkish drama is synonymous with romance, this series offers a complete recalibration. Number 13. Mr. Wrong. There is something in Özgür that Turkish drama rarely gets right with its leading men. He is not performing goodness because the script requires it. He genuinely cares about the people around him, even when he goes out of his way to hide it under layers of humor and studied detachment. That gap between how he presents himself and who he actually is, and the specific way Yaman collapses it in certain scenes, is what makes Mr. Wrong more than its premise. The setup is familiar. A restaurant owner who has built his life around not taking love seriously agrees to give dating advice to Ezgi, a woman who wants to get married but keeps ending up with the wrong men. What keeps it from being predictable is the speed at which the series moves. It doesn't linger in the initial dynamic longer than necessary. It trusts that you already know where things are going and decides to make the journey itself the point. Özge Gürel as Ezgi has a natural ease that works at every register. Her comedic timing is sharp, and her emotional moments land without effort. The on-screen connection between her and Yaman was clearly real, and the series benefits from that in every shared scene. At 14 episodes, Mr. Wrong delivers a complete story without overstaying its welcome. There are no manufactured obstacles stretched out past their natural lifespan. It closes exactly where it should. Number 12. The Istanbul Bride. What happens when 2 completely different worlds are expected to share the same table? When someone raised with all the freedom that Istanbul can offer suddenly finds herself navigating the unwritten rules of a traditional family in another part of Turkey, rules she never agreed to, with expectations she was never asked about? That's the collision. The Istanbul Bride explores across its nearly 90 episodes, and it's an honest one. Soraya is a singer with a life of her own who marries Farouk and discovers that marrying him means entering a whole inherited world she doesn't know how to live inside. The series is smart enough not to resolve that conflict by asking her to simply conform. Instead, it watches her find a space that doesn't quite fit either world, and the show follows those adjustments episode by episode. Asla Enver plays Suraya with the kind of specificity that makes the character feel real rather than symbolic. She's not a stand-in for modern woman meets tradition. She's a particular person making particular choices in particular moments, and her mistakes are as interesting as her victories. Özkan Deniz, as Farah, carries the difficult position of a man caught between genuine love and inherited loyalty without letting the character become simply weak. The honest critique is that some of the secondary antagonists become repetitive, and the final season doesn't match the first in energy. But the Istanbul Bride earns its following with a central character worth watching. Number 11. My Left Side. What nobody expects from a series built around a heart transplant is that it would turn out to be the most restrained and somehow the most emotionally forceful love story in Turkish drama in 2021. My Left Side doesn't do what you expect. It refuses the easy melodrama, stays away from the manipulative music swells, and bets everything on the performances. The premise is almost too on the nose to work. A heart surgeon who lost his wife and discovers that the heart now beating inside one of his patients once belonged to her. In a different series, this would be the setup for 40 episodes of manufactured grief. Here it is handled with a care and intelligence that earns its emotional weight. Ibrahim Çelikol plays Salim as someone who has learned to function with loss embedded in his daily life, not performing grief, but carrying it as naturally as a person would. And Dilan Çiçek Deniz as Melissa brings a warmth that makes Salim's slow opening toward her feel entirely believable and not at all rushed. 12 episodes. That number is the series' most radical choice, the decision to tell a complete, unhurried story without padding it to reach a specific episode count. Every scene has a reason to be there. The ending arrives at exactly the right moment, with the emotional honesty that the story earned from its very first scene. My Left Side is what Turkish drama can be when it chooses quality without apology. Number 10. Heartbeat. There is a specific kind of tension in Heartbeat that separates it from most of the romantic dramas in the Turkish catalog. It's the tension of two people with a shared history that only one of them is fully aware of. Circling each other in a coastal town where nothing, the sea, the school, the small distances between places, allows for easy escape. Aylul is a neurosurgeon who carries the weight of her mother's death in the particular way that shapes rather than breaks a person. It made her driven, precise, and quietly armored. Ali Asaf left a medical career in Istanbul to teach high school in Marmaris. And the real reason why is a mystery the series unravels carefully. Eku Kariel plays Aylul without victimhood. This is a character with real wit and real defenses, and watching them lower is the point. Gökhan Alkan as Ali Asaf carries the dual register of warmth and secret, with a kind of stillness that generates questions without demanding answers. The setting of Marmaris, the sea, the unhurried pace, the visual lightness serves the story rather than just decorating it. The honest critique is that some secondary storylines stretch the pacing unnecessarily, and the supporting cast gets mixed results. But Heartbeat's core is consistently strong. It's one of those series where the two leads have enough chemistry and enough depth that you stay not for the plot mechanics, but for the people themselves. Number 9. In Love Again. I'll be honest. In Love Again is predictable from approximately the 5th episode onward. You know how the arrangement is going to fall apart. You know when the feelings are going to shift. You can see the family complications coming from several episodes away, and somehow you keep watching. That's the quiet accomplishment of this 2015 romantic comedy. It doesn't try to trick you, and it doesn't need to. The story of Zeynep, a single mother returning to Turkey after a failed marriage in the United States, and Fatih, a wealthy young man running from his family's expectations, works because the characters are likable in a way that feels effortless rather than constructed. You want things to work out for them not because the script tells you to, but because both of them seem like reasonable people making understandable choices. Özge Özpirinci plays Zeynep with a comedic timing that never comes at the expense of the emotional weight she needs to carry. And Buğra Gülsoy, as Fatih, has a kind of relaxed charisma that makes the character sympathetic, even in the moments where he's clearly wrong about something. The honest critique is that the second season of In Love Again loses momentum in places where the writers seem to be filling time rather than building story, and some of the family conflict goes on longer than it needs to. But In Love Again delivers exactly what it promises: a warm, entertaining romantic comedy that leaves you feeling better than when you started it. Number 8. Be My Sunshine. There is a shot early in Be My Sunshine where Haziran, the city businesswoman, is standing on a cliff overlooking the Aegean, and instead of reaching for her phone, she just stays there. No reaction shot, no music swell. The camera just holds on her for a few seconds, and in that pause, the series tells you something about what is going to happen to this character long before the script puts it into words. Those moments of careful observation are what separate Be My Sunshine from the average summer romantic comedy. The premise City Girl arrives at Island Olive Estate and clashes with the man who wants to protect it is deliberately simple. What the series does with that simplicity is where it earns its place on this list. Isa, Aishin, Turan, and Alp Navruz don't perform attraction, they're just in scenes together and the energy takes care of itself. That naturalness is the series' strongest quality, and it compensates for the moments where the plot leans on conveniences it hasn't fully earned. The honest critique is that the second half introduces conflict that feels manufactured, as if the writers needed to create distance between the characters that the story itself had already resolved. A few episodes in that stretch test your patience. But Be My Sunshine closes with the warmth and lightness it promised from the beginning, and the journey there is consistently enjoyable. A summer series that does what summer series should do, make you feel good. Number 7. Full Moon. There is a man with enough money that he has never had to care what anyone thinks, and enough experience with disappointment that he has decided caring is simply not worth the trouble. He runs a restaurant, maintains a careful distance from everything, and has constructed a life around the idea that love is an inconvenience people inflict on themselves. Then he hires a new domestic employee who arrives with a dozen opinions and no intention of keeping any of them to herself. That is the engine of Full Moon, and it works precisely because neither character is allowed to be a type. Ferret has real reasons for his emotional distance. The series gives them to you gradually and in a way that makes sense. And Nazla is not an innocent who melts his defenses through pure sweetness. She's someone with her own complications who happens to be entirely too alive for the space he's built around himself. The presence of Ferret's orphan nephew Bulut adds a layer that separates Full Moon from standard romantic comedies. Bulut is the character who shows you who Ferret actually is under the surface, and the warmth between them gives the series a tenderness that the central romance alone wouldn't reach. Can Yaman and Özge Gürel have the kind of effortless comedy together that suggests they genuinely enjoyed the material? The honest critique is that the final episodes stretch beyond the story's natural ending point. But Full Moon delivers exactly what it promises, and does so with real charm. Number 6. Love for Rent. Love for Rent is the kind of series you start on a Friday night with the intention of watching 2 episodes and then look up to discover it's Sunday. Not because it's twisting your expectations or revealing hidden depths in every episode, but because it's constructed with just enough precision to make putting it down feel harder than watching the next one. The premise is simple and completely dependable. Daphne needs money, Omer needs his family to think he's doing fine, and they make a deal that serves both of them in the short term. You know exactly where things are going. The difference is in how the series handles the space between where they start and where they end up. Elçin Sangu as Daphne has comedic timing and genuine emotional range in equal measure. There are scenes where she's hilarious, and scenes where something quieter is happening under the surface, and she handles the transition between them without a visible seam. Barış Arduç as Ömer takes a character who could easily be frustrating and makes him consistently sympathetic through the small things: a look, a hesitation, a choice that the script didn't need him to make. The honest critique is that with nearly 70 episodes, the second season manufactures obstacles that feel like they belong in a different story. But Love for Rent has enough warmth and enough momentum that even its slower stretches stay watchable. A genuine classic of the Turkish romantic comedy catalog. Number 5. The Agency. Dikkel doesn't arrive at the Ego talent agency through the right channels. She has no contacts, a resume that impresses no one, and the additional complication of being the secret, illegitimate daughter of one of the partners, neither of whom knows it yet. Asen Erolu builds her from the ground up. No triumphant music, no speeches about what she's going to prove. Just someone learning fast in a place where everyone else already knows the game. The Agency is Turkey's adaptation of the acclaimed French series, Call My Agent. And what makes it work is that it takes the structure seriously without copying the content wholesale. It understands the emotional architecture of the original, the way personal and professional lives collide under the fluorescent lights of a talent agency, and rebuilds it with Turkish specificity. The gimmick of having a real Turkish celebrity appear in every episode as a heightened version of themselves gives the series a meta quality that's both entertaining and, occasionally, genuinely sharp about the entertainment industry. The 4 managers at Ego Karatz, Ferris, Chunar, and Peride are archetypes drawn with enough texture to function as characters rather than just comic types. The ensemble chemistry is natural. The honest critique is that the series doesn't sustain the quality of its opening episodes throughout, and some arcs drag. but the agency is one of the most distinctive things Turkish drama has attempted in the comedy drama format. Number 4. Kurt Sayet and Shura. How much can love endure when the world surrounding it is collapsing? That question sits at the center of Kurt Sayet and Shura, and the series is honest enough not to give it an easy answer. The story is based on real events, and that grounding is visible in every episode. There is a weight to the relationship between Kurt Sayet, a Russian officer of Tatar origin, and Shura, the aristocratic woman he loves, that only real history can provide. World War I and the Russian Revolution are not backdrop here. They are the forces that shape, distort, and ultimately determine the lives of the two people at the center of the story. Kıvanç Tatlıtuğ plays Kurt Sayet with a sobriety that suits the material. This is a man carrying something the performance never fully externalizes, and that restraint makes the character more compelling, not less. Fahriye Evcen as Shura handles the romantic dimension without reducing it to sentimentality. The honest critique is that certain middle episodes slow the rhythm considerably, and the historical fidelity of the ending, which doesn't give viewers the emotional resolution a purely fictional version might choose, can feel abrupt for those expecting closure. But Kurt Sayet and Shura is one of the most elegantly produced historical dramas in the Turkish catalog, and its 21 episodes feel exactly right for the scope of the story being told. For viewers who want something different from the standard romantic comedy format, this is a strong choice. Number 3. Magnificent Century. Nobody predicted that a period drama about 16th century Ottoman court politics would become a television phenomenon watched in more than 50 countries. Not an action thriller, not a modern drama, a production set 5 centuries ago with palace intrigue, harem politics, and the specific moral weight of absolute power. And yet, Magnificent Century did exactly that. What makes it work is not the visual spectacle, although the production is genuinely remarkable. What makes it work is Hürrem, a European slave who arrives at the court of Suleiman the Magnificent and responds to the system she finds there, not with submission, but with intelligence. Meryem Uzerli's portrayal is magnetic from her first episode, calculating, vulnerable, brilliant, and completely compelling, even in the moments where the character's choices are morally complicated. Because they are complicated. The series doesn't sanitize what it took to survive and thrive in a palace where survival was never guaranteed. Halit Ergenç as Suleiman builds a character who is simultaneously the most powerful man in the world and someone who cannot control what a particular woman makes him feel. That tension between the public weight of empire and the private weight of love is the show's central engine. The honest critique: 139 episodes are a commitment, and not all of them sustain the same standard. Some secondary storylines outrun their usefulness to the main narrative. But Magnificent Century changed what audiences expected Turkish drama to be capable of. Number 2. The Circle. There are very few series in the entire Turkish YouTube catalog that maintain the level of sustained tension that The Circle delivers. Not the artificial kind built from melodrama and close-ups of crying faces' actual tension, the kind where you aren't sure who the real players are, where a piece you thought you understood just moves somewhere unexpected, where the episode ends and starting the next one immediately feels like the only rational choice. The premise has a complexity that could easily come apart in the execution. Two men who grew up in completely opposite worlds discover that their identities were switched at birth by a criminal organization that has been operating in the shadows for decades. Kaan and Cihangir are not natural allies. They come to the same fight from opposing angles, and the friction between them is as interesting as the conflict with the villains. Serkan Çayolu and Kaan Yildirim carry their characters with a conviction that makes the mythology believable, even in the moments where the plot demands more from the audience than usual. And Hande Erçel, appearing here in her most dramatically serious role at the time, delivers a performance that consistently surprises. The 8.7 rating on IMDb is not an anomaly. The Circle earns it. In 19 episodes, the series not only maintains its quality, it builds toward a finale that pays off what it set up from the beginning. One of the tightest thrillers the Turkish drama world has produced. Number 1. Resurrection. Ertuğrul. I'll be honest, when Resurrection, Ertuğrul first started circulating on YouTube, a lot of people dismissed it before giving it a real chance. 150 episodes set in the 13th century, following the father of the Ottoman Empire's founder through battles, tribal politics, and religious devotion. None of that sounds like what you'd choose for a casual evening of television. And yet the people who started it without expectations tend to finish it. Resurrection. Ertuğrul is not a series for everyone. It's long. Its values are explicitly religious and nationalistic in ways that some viewers find engaging and others find alienating. The tone is serious, in a way that can feel distant to those who came to Turkish drama through its romantic comedies. None of that is a secret. But what the series does within its own terms, it does extraordinarily well. Ertuğrul, played by Engin Altan Düzyatan, with a physical and emotional presence that television rarely produces, is a hero who doesn't function as wish fulfillment. He doubts, fails, loses people he loves, and carries on anyway. That humanity inside an epic framework is what earns the series its audience. The production is genuinely impressive. Battle sequences with budgets that show, landscapes that use Turkey in ways most series ignore, and a score that became recognizable worldwide. The honest critique is that the series demands patience and active engagement. It's not passive entertainment, but resurrection. Ertuğrul rewards the viewers who stay with it in ways that few television productions manage. And that is everything for today. 15 Turkish series you can start watching right now, completely free on YouTube, available to anyone. Let me know in the comments which ones you have already seen and which one is next on your list. If this video was helpful, please leave a like and share it so more people can discover these incredible productions. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. See you in the next one.